Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson, and this is Marketing Chapter 4. We are now on business buying behavior. We buy as consumers, but we also make a great deal of purchases as businesses in the United States domestically and internationally as well. Our learning objectives are to identify the ways in which business to business or B2B markets differ from business to consumer or B2C markets, explain why business buying is actually or acutely affected by the behavior of consumers. So, number sold. The number sold to business markets and the size of each transaction is much greater than the consumer markets. Why? Because the businesses buy so much more. Of a business, let's just say it's a company, needs to buy toilet paper. I'm sure they buy more than your household. The size of each transaction for business customers is also much greater. Complexity is going to be more complex when you're dealing with the business. Business products can be far more complex. Custom building and retrofitting is common. Personal selling, because the transactions are large, personal selling is justified to spend an extra time with them. The agility of interactive personal selling allows changes to be made to meet conditions. So the demand for business-to-business products. Derived demand, demand that is derived from a source other than a primary buyer of a product, right? You're a primary buyer of a product or a consumer. Fluctuating demand is a small change in demand by consumers can have a big effect throughout the chain of business that supply all goods and services that produce it. You also have joint demand. It occurs when demand for one product increases the demand for another. Right, so the increase of demand for cereal would increase the demand for milk. Companies try to influence their business-to-business sales by directly influencing consumers, and that's us, right? If I'm the purchasing manager for the company and I buy some certain type of toilet tissue at home, it's quite possible that I will do the same for the company. Key takeaways, want you to read these on your own, but business-to-business market differ from business-to-consumer markets in many ways. There are more transactions in business-to-business market and more high-dollar transactions because they're often more costly and also more complex. But the rest of it, I want you to read through the key takeaways for business-to-business sales. More learning objectives. Describe the major categories of business buyers. Explain why finding decision makers in business markets is challenging for sellers. Well, I can tell you from someone who's been in sales before, a lot of times you run into the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper doesn't want you to necessarily get to the decision maker. And maybe the decision maker hasn't instructed them so. So you have to, those are some of the roadblocks that you'll run into if you're doing sales within the business realm. Business-to-business buyers. Business buyers can be either nonprofit or for-profit businesses, as we talked about in previous chapters. 4 basic categories. You have producers, right? We take other goods, make our goods. So I take the wood, and then I put it with other goods like trucks and wheels, and I make the skateboard. Resellers, they just buy the product as is, and then they sell it. You have institutions like schools, and then governments as well. So producers, the companies that purchase goods and services that they transform into other products. These businesses have to buy certain products to produce the goods and services they create. So a skateboard company has to buy the wood to make the board, put on the trucks and the wheels, and there we go. Producers generally buy in large quantities, right? So because we're producing thousands of skateboards, we have to buy thousands of pounds of wood. Resellers. Companies that sell goods and services produced by other firms without materially changing them. So I'm not changing anything, just buying them and I'm selling them for more. Large wholesalers, brokers, and retailers are typically resellers. Retailers are typically resellers. Large resellers wield considerable power on producers because they provide customers and influence prices. Why do they influence prices and provide customers? Because they're buying thousands and thousands of your goods, right? If I no longer buy your clothes, it's okay. But if a company that buys thousands of pants from you every month doesn't buy your clothes anymore, then you actually have a problem. Government, or they call them B2G markets, or business to government markets. So you have state and local governments buy huge amounts of products. The United States government is the world's largest buyer of goods and services. Each agency will have its own procurement policies. Would-be sellers are asked to submit sealed bids. It's not always the lowest bid that's accepted. So selling the government is not always easy, has a lot of checks and balances. Thing takes a little time, but once you're in there, it's good stuff and it's steady, steady money. So it's a video that I posted on that you might find very interesting. Institutional markets, so include nonprofit organizations, charitable organizations, private colleges, civic clubs, things of that nature. They buy products and services in large quantities. Holding costs down is essentially important, right? Or especially important. You want to keep the costs down because it's a school, institution like that. We want to save because we don't have a huge budget. The lower the cost, the more people they can serve. And the products and services bought, the same as used by consumers. So just like same goods used by consumers, sometimes the same goods that are used by businesses. Just they just bought a lot more. The quantity bought is just much greater on the business side. Purchasing decisions in a business market. So who makes the decision to buy? Well, that's the decision maker. Not always clear when dealing with business customers. So is it the CFO? Is it the CEO? Is it the purchasing manager? Finding the decision maker is key. Where to start in business-to-business sales can be a little bit of a scavenger hunt. We don't know. There may be several involved. There are tiers of business to business and business to consumers. More key takeaways. Like I said, I want you to read this on your own, but just to give you an intro to it. Business buyers can be either nonprofit or for-profit. There are 4 basic categories of business buyers. We already talked about producers, resellers, governments, and institutions as well. So go ahead and make sure that you read the rest of that also. More learning objectives. Explain what a buying center is. Explain who the members of a buying center are and describe their roles. Describe the duties of professional buyers and describe the personal and interpersonal dynamics that affect the decisions buying centers make. So, what affects those decisions? So what is a buying center? Buying centers are groups of people within organizations who make purchasing decisions. Could be procurement department. Buyers have different titles: purchasing agent, purchasing manager, procurement officer, merchandisers, lots of different titles that they could have. So what are their duties of a professional buyer? Consider the availability of products, the reliability of the products. You want to study a company's sales record, right? So you want to do some look backs for some years. Negotiate prices. You want to keep abreast of changes in the supply and demand for goods. You want to stay informed of the latest trends. You want to determine the media that's involved, and you want to track down advertisements that may positively or negatively affect your product or service. Other buying center players, initiator, right? So this is a person says, hey, I'm waving my red flag. We need this. People within the organization that first see the need for a product. The users, these are people and groups within the organization that actually use the product, right? Somebody has to use it. Frequently, one or more users served as an initiator. Then you have your influencers, people who may or may not use the product, and they've experienced or expertise that can help improve the buying decision, right? Influencer, I'm asking about a trip to Maui, and you've been before, give me the lowdown on it. Tell me what I should be looking for. Other buying center players, like I said, the gatekeeper, and typically this is going to be the receptionist or the executive assistant, people who decide if and when you get access to the members of the buying center. And that's kind of tough, so if you do calls, and I did outbound calls before, you're going to have to kind of butter up that receptionist if you want to get to the CFO or CEO. They told us all kind of stuff. They told us what time to call. They said, hey, if you call like 7 o'clock, you'll probably get directly to his line before the receptionist gets there, because she just gets there at 8 o'clock. A lot of different tactics when you're trying to attempt to get out there and get those sales done. Deciders, these are people or person who makes the final purchasing decision. So what are the dynamics of business-to-business marketing? Interpersonal factors among the people making the buying decisions have an impact on the products chosen, right? So what type of impact? Is a financial impact, social impact, a lot of different impacts to your company. Business-to-business marketers are aware of these dynamics and they try to influence the outcome. Their marketing is very, very strategic, as it should be. Selling firms gather information about their customers and use that information to their advantage, right? Take whatever information you can and say, we want to sell this to you, and this is why. You got to wrap it up and put a pretty bow on it and sell it to them. Some more key takeaways. Buying centers are groups of people within organizations who make purchasing decisions. So, read on yourself about the buying decisions and everything that a procurement manager would do. More learning objectives. You can never have too many of those. Outline the stages in the business-to-business buying process. Explain the scorecard evaluation of proposals, and describe the different types of business-to-business buying situations and how they affect sellers. So for instance, you have a request for a proposal, and they'll talk about it in the next few slides. But certain businesses have these big contracts. They say, hey, you know what? We want a request for a proposal. We send it out, and you're coming up with at least a minimum 15-page document that has to be created and constructed and sent over to see if they think that they want to put you in the running. So here are the stages in business-to-business buying. So you have need recognition. Hey, we need something. Needs described and quantified. We need 15 somethings on May 31st. Search for potential suppliers. I look at the different suppliers and I say, okay, this is the one we're going with. Qualified suppliers ask for ask for RFP, and RFP stands for request for proposal. Proposals evaluated and suppliers selected, right? So all the rest get rejected, one gets selected. Order routine is established, so now we know how it's going to work, how it's going to flow. Post-purchase evaluation is conducted, right? So after the purchase, hey, how did it go? Do you have buyer's remorse? As soon as you drove the car off the lot, do you say, oh, you know what? I just don't like this car anymore. So those are the different stages in the business-to-business buying process. So you have a straight rebuy. Buys the same product in the same quantities from the same vendor. So 10 of these, I need 10 skateboards a week. Modified rebuy, the same type of product as in the past, only modified a new vendor used. And new buy, firm purchases a product for the very first time, right? More key takeaways, read those on your own, but the stages in the business buying processes are as follows, right? So someone recognizes that the organization has a need, right? So, we post that out there. We have the need, and hopefully somebody aligns with us and takes on that lead and says, hey, let's roll with this and let's get it fixed. Learning objectives, describe the reasons why firms in the same industries are often located in the same geographic areas. Saw some interesting videos. I didn't post any of these, but a company say, hey, why are we dealing with all these shipping charges? Why don't we just move our company right next door to the company that we need things from? Explain the effect that e-commerce is having on firms, and outline the different types of e-commerce sites and what each type of site is used for. So international business-to-business market works just like domestic. Business-to-business markets in the same industry tend to cluster in the same geographic area. Why? Because, hey, we make golf clubs and we make bats, but the same material is right here. Let's move wherever this material is, and let's just be right there and get a good working business relationship with them. Sellers, they want to be close to their buyers, which makes sense. And clusters occur both domestically and internationally. So business-to-business e-commerce has made locating near buyers less important. Business-to-business e-commerce has been slower to take hold of the business-to-consumer e-commerce wave. So must understand the difference between the two. So you have your business-to-business website. Side site, so it's a site in which a single seller sells products to many different buyers. So I sell, the Big Top Cupcake, and I sell it to whoever comes to the site. Buy side site, businesses buy products from multiple sellers that go there to do business with the firm. Business-to-business exchanges, e-commerce sites where buyers and sellers find and do business with each other. And then a business-to-business auction, web-based auctions that occur between businesses. A reverse auction occurs when the buyer and seller roles are actually reversed. Did I skip one? So pricing in e-commerce markets, right? So some companies that say, hey, we're not going to get on the internet. Forget that. We're going to stick to our guns. And that was Mervyn's, and you see where they're at now. E-commerce empowers both consumers and businesses to shop for a price. So I can guarantee if you go to get a car today or tomorrow, First thing you do, you're going to look online, look at all the specs and everything. Then you're going to go down there and take a test drive. So they didn't have all those tools at their fingertips before, but now we all do. As a result, many products have reached commodity status. Some companies refuse to sell their products directly online or list their prices on the website to avoid price wars. So more key takeaways, only a few more slides. Firms in the same industry tend to cluster in the same geographic areas because the resources these firms need, which is a good thing. Get close to your suppliers. They'll help you out all along the way. Learning objectives. Explain how the ethical dilemmas business-to-business marketers face differ from the ethical dilemmas business-to-consumer marketers face. Outline the measures companies take to encourage their employees and executives to act in ethical ways, right? You must remain in the ethical realm. Ethics in business-to-business market. So transparency, and that means not that you're invisible, but I can see what's going on. You're being transparent with me. Watchdog organization annually ranks the likelihood of firms from the world's industrialized countries to bribe abroad, right? So bribes, yes, they definitely still happen in this day and age. So what is ethical and what is not is often not clear cut, right? There's some wiggle room for a lot of different things there. Wrong way. And the last slide is more key takeaways. Ethics come into play in almost all business settings. You must know and understand when there's going to be an ethical breach. You want to stay far away from that, and make sure that you COIA or make sure that your name is clear in the situation as well. So that's it for chapter 4. Be sure to stop it and read the key takeaways, or you can look at the PowerPoints that are posted over in resources. So great job. Test number 1 is coming up, just so you know, 4 chapters, and then we're going to be looking at having a possible test. So thanks a lot for everything. Hopefully you guys are doing well in class, taking your quizzes, checking out the PowerPoint, watching the videos, watching your supplemental videos, and then doing great on your quizzes. Next chapter is chapter 5. We're moving right along. 9-week classes, they go like a flash. So as always, I want you guys to all have a good day and a great week.